you're going to manage application settings in your lab, but I think it's important enough that I want to show it to you and make sure you understand exactly what's going on.
For this demonstration, I'm going to go through what I call a cooking show demo. And if you've ever watched a cooking show, and I'll probably say this again, and I apologize, but like they put all the ingredients together into whatever they're baking it in, they put it in the oven, and they immediately pulled out a version that's already done. And I'm going to do that with this demo because there's a fair number of steps, a lot of deployment. I just want to save you that time. I want to show you how we can use a really powerful capability within the Azure web app environment to really simplify deployment and management and security of our web applications. What you see now is an extremely basic web application, ASP.NET MVC application that I've created on my local machine. This is running locally, and you can see it says localhost and a port number. And I've added a very simple controller and view and model, really, using a code first, if you're familiar with Entity Framework, code first. And I'm running and I'm retrieving data. And I've got a couple of lines of data here. This is currently running in my local development environment. I've got a SQL Server instance on my machine, and I've got a connection string that's connecting up to my local machine. I also have just an extremely simple thing here. I've got the word development showing up where it says you are running this from the development server, and I'll show you where that comes from. Now, what you have, what you see here is the online version of this. I've deployed it, and if I try to click on students right now, it's going to fail. And in fact, it just kind of sits there and waits because I'm still using my development connection string, and it's kind of looking for that server, and it's not going to find it. Okay, so we're going to actually let that churn a bit and take a look at a couple of things. I've got two key settings that I want to focus on. The first is my connection string. And here's the connection string on line 13, and it's connecting up to the local machine. It's using integrated security. Okay, I have a connection string, and you're going to see my super secret demo password here. This is the actual connection string to the online SQL server that I actually want to use, and it's the same database. I've just copied it actually using Management Studio. Okay, so for working DB, when this thing's in production, I wanted to have that connection string that works for production. And also the location, which currently says development, I want that location to say something else. Now, that's a dumb thing to do with an app, but it makes it really easy for me to demonstrate this. All right, let's take a look at how we would fix both of those issues. Oh, there we go. It finally came back and I had an error. All right, I'm going to come over here to my settings for the web application. So this is my Azure production settings for the web application. And I'm going to come down somewhere around here. Where did it go? I had it. And I want settings. Oh, come on. Application settings. How hard is that? Sorry, lost myself for a minute. I wasted 30 seconds of your time, but we'll make it worthwhile. All right, so I come down here and I've got these two sections. I've got app settings and I've got connection strings. Awesome. So I'm going to go into working DB. I'm going to go into connection strings. I'm going to add working DB, and I'm going to paste in that connection string. And so that's the connection string that I copied over that is going to connect up to the online version. And I'm also going to go into the app settings. I'm going to set location. And we're going to say production East US, because that happens to be where I have it. You could have whatever you want in here, and we'll actually take a look at that in a little more interesting application later in the course. Okay, so I've successfully saved those. Now, that was pretty easy to do, but to me, this is absolutely huge, because when I come in, and let's reload this. We'll go back to the application name. That'll just reload again. I did this just very quick and dirty. Now, when I click on students, it's going to pick up that connection string. There we go. And it picked up those settings. So now it says production East server, and you can see that it's got data. Now the data happens to be the same, like I said, because I made a copy of the database. But to me, that is an absolutely huge capability, because if you've ever worked on deployment and you've got connection strings and there may be sensitive information in those connection strings, that's always a bit of a problem, right? How do I make sure that I'm, when I'm in dev, I'm going against a development version. When I'm in test, I'm going against the test version, and production version. How do I do this without having to worry about deploying things the right way and giving people that might not need access to the production connection information, giving them that information? This makes it really easy, right? For those two things, application settings and connection strings, which are by far the two most commonly used sections for customization in ASP.NET, right? That's built into the web app. For me, that is a huge capability in terms of simplifying and securing your deployment. So again, it's very simple once you remember where application settings are, which are literally the first thing under settings, at least right now. Then you go into the sections, app settings, connection strings. As an Azure administrator, very easy to do this. Definitely want you to think about integrating this concept into your overall production, in how you're deploying web applications in Azure.
Remember, you have the ability to override your app settings and override your connection strings at the configuration level within the web application itself. That's going to be picked up by the code. It will always override whatever was in the web.config file.